all the American people. They need people who can manipulate the American people so that they have their support. My message is to you is don't support anybody unless they're doing what we know to be right. Don't believe them. Don't fall for the manipulations. Double check everything they say.
And that means you can't rely on the media as it is today either.
Oh, of course not. All the media in this country, radio, television, and print, is all owned by 5 corporations. All of these corporations that own the media are owned and controlled, and members of the Council on Foreign Relations sit on their board of directors.
Can you name those 5 corporations? Is that...
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I could try, but I don't want to take a chance on being inaccurate. But you can trace that yourself.
Okay.
Remember, if you go down and you trace the ownership of a station or a newspaper, and you get to a corporation, remember that somebody owns that corporation, and it's usually another corporation. But when you trace the interlocking of all these things, when you get to the top, there's 5. And all journalists know that there's some things you don't write about and you don't talk about because you'll lose your job. And that's where the control is. And that's why they pay anchormen like Dan Rather $2 million a year, because he doesn't question them. He knows that if he goes against them, he's going to lose $2 million a year. Do you think a man that looks pretty and sits in front of a TV camera for the 6 o'clock news is worth $2 million a year? No way. I don't care how long he works, and I don't care what he does. There is no job worth $2 million a year. That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive? And when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor, he sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus.
All right, welcome back to the Patriot Hour. I am Michael, your host. We got Ben still with us. We're going to be getting back into, or not back into, but into what we just listened to there. Ben, did you catch all that?
Oh man, that Bill Cooper is still it brings goosebumps to me when I hear that. And that, you know, that was a long time ago. That was taken on VHS, to give anybody an idea about time
and then 6 million. I mean, that we're way past that. Players get like 54 million contracts for 5 years, but that's just like cost inflation from the 80s, late 80s. I think that was maybe early 90s, late 80s. I'm not sure, but wow. How interesting.
You know, it's something that, you know, we were talking at the in the break, a little bit of garage talk, if you will, and you know, we were saying, oh, how fake news, it's fake news. You know, this fake news, this two buzzwords that's been really going. It's only been, it seems like this president has been the first president to, besides obviously like Lincoln and JFK and some of these other ones like we were talking about, that have been really pointing out news agencies and really calling them out hugely. And it almost seems like it's okay to start calling news agencies fake. Oh, you mean like fake news? You watch fake news? It's kind of like it's the new buzzword. And people don't quite understand. And I think we were talking about with this particular episode, we wanted to focus more on some of the tools they use for disinformation, and to make some of your viewers and subscribers who already know this but maybe aware, refresh those that are first coming on, to really have a grasp, because I have a hard time, explaining some of the things, these ideas in a competent manner. And, Bill Cooper, extremely eloquent about the information that he knew, amazing. And so, this was something that we kind of were talking about. When people ask you, well, what is fake news? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What do you mean? What do you mean disinformation? I don't understand. You mean only according to Bill Cooper, and not even that, for the facts in the late 80s, early 90s, 5 corporations, mega corporations owned all media. I mean, you heard it. I mean, that's almost like jaw-dropping. People don't truly understand that.
Well, I agree with that. And he also was kind of saying, fact. He even says, to way back then, it's like, don't believe anyone, double fact check everything you hear. Don't just go off of this and that. You can't do it. This was bred this way. This is a system by design. It's part of, their structure to misinform, disinform, underinform, lie, basically. And you can't just take the stories and run. People have been saying this. People with high level clearances that have seen things and know things are honorable men to everybody when they're 20 years in the military, maybe 30 if they're a high ranking officer, sometimes 35, 37 years if you're, of 4-star general or admiral status. But other than that, you're getting 30. And then these people go on to do 20 in some other agencies, sometimes government, 3 letters. And then when they get done with that, it's 50, 60 years in, and they try to tell us things. And nobody wants to listen or hear it, or they're cuckoos, conspiracy nuts. But they were honorable men, trusted with secrets for, 50, 60 years of their lives.
Yeah.
And people think they know more sitting at home on the couch sometimes, or peeping through a TV window, or listening to their favorite anchor that looks really cute or pretty to them, or however, So do your work, folks. Make sure you let's listen to a couple more, maybe a minute here of Cooper, and I know we got some other things to get into. We got great things lined up. Me and Ben were discussing. We got some actual things queued up, so it should work out pretty well. But I'm gonna come back over to this.
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus. I know men who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets. And they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game. It's sad. It's really sad.
Is there any room in
I'm not laughing, but he's right. That's sad. And that's really sad. I know guys that know nothing about anything but who plays third base for the Yankees or the Mets, and they think that's a great accomplishment. It's like we talked about our kids, my kids used to run to me, and I get it, they're excited as kids. Kids are kids, so you can't really use this, but it's on the same level as a grown man, which is much worse. Like, Dad, I beat level 2 on my game, and we're like, son, you're never going to really hear me, good job. Yes, I know you like your games, but at a certain point, it's like, you're not going to get trophies. Nobody's really going to admire you or,
You got 1 million coins and you can buy this new dude. And you're so excited because this is earth-shattering. It's a level you've been working on for a while to play. And I mean, and you're right, because when you stop and think about what Bill was saying, in the grand scheme of things, like, your child would be better off coming to you, running to you, picking something out of the garden or mowing the lawn or doing something actually in the real world productive.
Yeah.
But they have our kids, and it's not, we're not pointing fingers at the viewers, the listeners. What we're trying to do is give you, and the statements we make is obviously very blanketed. This is something that's happening to all of us, to everybody. We see this in our own children. We see this in our friends' children.
Yes,
we see this in our own lives, and so it's
our
like
loved ones, our coworkers, our
we want to get
significant
yes.
others.
And so you're right. When you see, you kind of come, oh my gosh, I won this level. And you're like, yes, okay, good job. But, hey, this isn't earth shattering, And so you're right. When I hear about fantasy football, and it's hard because what has our society been pushing for the males in our society to do? We need to drink beer, do sports of some kind. And if you don't do sports, or you do something else, that somehow rates your manhood. Like if you're doing cricket versus football or rugby versus soccer, that rates your manhood of how. Yes, and bread and circus.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We, back in the days, folks, they had more, physical. They had the Colosseums in Rome. It was a way to keep the people busy, and it's no different today. I mean, it's take it in moderation. You can like all the sports you want, but if there's, how does that affect, some of these things that have gone unnoticed, where everyone's focused on sports, and we know that's a huge thing. What has run amok in DC? It's like, well, I don't want to follow a bunch of crooked people. Well, unfortunately, we have to keep eyes on them, otherwise they get crooked. So if we ever get this fixed, we got to keep an eye. Well, that's what these oversights are for. And that was all swamp. Everyone that we sent down there ended up into the swamp, drug in or kicked out. So,
well, the old adage of when you first go to DC, you dip your foot in the cesspool, but if you stay too long, it becomes a hot tub.
Yeah, becomes
and
your
that's the
hot
problem.
Tub.
Becomes a cesspool, a hot tub, and that's, when we get information, yes, we get it from fake news sites, we get it from 8chan, we get it from everywhere we possibly can. We want to get information from every possible source, but the difference is just like when we were in college, you can't just write a dissertation, write a paper, and just start throwing in weak sources. Like you can't quote Wikipedia and write 130-page dissertation on Western culture and use Wikipedia as a valid source. But you understand that Wikipedia can be a good place to direct you or say or do things. So we're not ruling out, but we want you guys to be aware of almost the tools that the evil one and his followers that we've been seeing being arrested and these evil deeds they've been doing, what tools they use, how they use it, and how they communicate what the agenda, or what Trump would say, or what Q would say, the mainstream media, the narrative. What were they saying about the Vegas shooting? Well, we're hearing there's some different things at play at that time, so that wasn't the main thing going on.
No, exactly. We're now finding out all these months later that it was Stephen Paddock was to be another JFK, to be another, Pat Nazi that the world went rampant on because he not only shot a bunch of people at a concert down below, but he, possibly tried to assassinate our president, this same night. I don't know.
Lee
It's
Harvey
interesting
Oswald,
stuff.
I think what you were saying. I think you're trying to get for the Dave and Paddock, where they were kind of the Lee Harvey Oswald type thing, and try to get that be the fall guy as well. I think
exactly setting him up as a patsy for like JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah, I don't even think I mentioned the name, but very interesting. We all know the media, fake news. Before all that was being fake news, because that really is kind of a new term. I mean, I don't know if we were using it back in the 90s or early 2000s, like fake news, but we knew we just used propaganda. That was a word I used to use a lot. Propaganda or misinformation, lying was a big word, but fake news, So let's show that, like, we know that the media is in conjunctions. These owners, Bill Cooper spoke of 5. And again, folks, when you're in this research and in some of these areas, you might, and things change over time, but, you might hear, well, he said 5 and Q dropped something not a couple weeks ago that was like 6, but it's pretty close when, in the illusion of things, most people would tell you that each channel owns itself or something, and they would think there's thousands of channels and ideas, and you're getting a really good spectrum of fairness shoved down your throat. That's not really the case, as we found out in our research over the years.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the case. We know that all the word lies, different information, it's all different words explaining the same behavior.
Yeah, that's a...
So I believe there was a clip or some of that nature where you were going to pull up with kind of really giving a great visual example of kind of what we've been talking about, and how just because you may watch one media outlet because they tend to be more right-leaning versus another media outlet because they tend to be more left-leaning. We saw a lot of this during the campaign and the race for the electoral votes. This was the news and multiple outlets skewed the time major to the point of we thought this was a glitch happening. Like, there's no way they're doing this in front of us. This is no way. And I think Q sums it up quite nicely. And I think
I thought I was getting into it with this NBC stuff right here.
Mm-hmm. I know I said somewhere right in there they were talking about that. Oh, I think it just go up a little bit. I think it was just right there. U.S. media, alt news versus media. Those who scream the loudest.
Find the connections.
Maybe the one below that.
Fake news.
I think all outlets destroy the narrative. True, correct. Look at the much bigger.
Fake MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was a one breakdown of who owned what. And it's like a meme.
I was trying to find that picture as well.
We'll get there, folks. Shut your eyes if you're getting sick. There, how about
there
this?
It is. There it is.
Let me get this.
The illusion of choice. Media has never been more consolidated. 6 media giants now control a staggering 90% of what we read, watch, or listen to. Consolidation. Now, I believe this came out in 2011. This is a 9-year-old study. So obviously this may be a little bit askewed on, like you were saying earlier, Mike, on
Yeah.
there could be mergers, buyouts, but
Yeah, little switchovers. But 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 companies. In 2011, that same 90% is controlled by 6. That's crazy.
and so I believe they're from left to right. They are in the power structure. I think like GE is one of the biggest, or no, I don't know if GE is the biggest or Viacom.
Probably all equal.
What type? Yeah, probably. I mean, look at some of their
here.
holdings, what they have underneath there.
Comcast, that's boom. And then over here you got Fox, New York, Wall Street. And then you got these. Yeah, I would say they're all... You got a studio packed into all of them. You got Universal. They kind of blend them over. Now this News Corp doesn't really have that, but then you go to Disney, they got Miramax, Pixar. Viacom's got Paramount lined up with it. Time Warner's got Warner Bros. You go to CBS, they got Showtime, Smithsonian, NFL. I mean, they're just notable. They're notable.
Yeah, they own probably another 100 or 1,000 companies. Those are probably.
All right, so we know by those 6 companies right there, right?
As of 2011, the hard numbers were that they polled. Now, I do know there's other websites that you can go to that have, I believe, 2017, or they may have the first quarter of 2018 of what companies are the holdings. That's a whole financial rabbit hole that you got to find this stuff in for sure.
No, and this is what Q, or an anonymous person linked. Was it Q even? Yeah, it was Q. Okay. So this is what they linked, and it's like maybe it's been sitting here. This is kind of when you get down that much where 6 companies are only 90%, that can sit there for a while and not really change. But that lets you know that, you know, these owners can shove down a narrative pretty quickly. This is a dinner meeting with the heads. You know, that's people sitting around a table on a Sunday and discussing something, and then sending out tweets to the owners of things, and then the next thing you know, it's trickling downhill right to a teleprompter. That's how the Q. Remember when the Q attack happened? It was so like just somebody flipped the light switch, and it was the same chunk of story on every single media platform. Same thing. Same thing repeated on all of those networks. And we got some examples of that tonight. I think lots of you might have seen that buzzing around the internet. There's a couple different kind of clips put together, but this one's a real good one. And we're actually going to go to the Legacy Truth channel, which Ben here runs, and he had put a video up a couple months ago. You want to talk about that a little bit? Like what are we looking at right here before I start the video?
Okay, I believe this was a United Nations U.S. Census Bureau. This is dealing with the internet. Now, this was something that I pulled. This was out of January 2018.
Again,
this was a
really
snapshot.
Prevalent, you know, it's 6-7 months old.
Yeah. This is a snapshot on basically humans and tech. So, total population, reading from left to right, total population, there's approximately 7.6 billion people. The urbanization of those 7.6 billion people is about half. Half people live in the city, half of them live in the country type thing. Now, the internet users, we're dealing with the 7.6 billion on Earth, right? Out of the internet users, there's 4.02 billion internet users. That means the total population penetration means 53% of the Earth's population is on the internet. Now you have the active social media users. Now these are the people who just what it says. This is a tweet and the this and the YouTube and not so much YouTube, but that's even included in that. That's we'll say just approximately 3.2 billion. Now that's about 42% penetration of the entire population on Earth. Now, here's the crazy part, and this is where something we ought to be very careful of. Unique mobile users. These are people who use their mobile phones for phone calls, texting, not much activation, but they just have it because they have a mobile phone. It's the coolest thing to have, right? 5.13 billion people, 68% penetration. 68% of everybody on Earth has a cell phone. And of course, the very active, highly active, we would call this the millennial generation, the younger generation who is texting everything about their life on their cell phone. That's approximately 2.6 billion. Almost 3 billion. 39%. 39%. Yeah, almost, yeah. So this was what I pulled up, and I was wanting to go over if 53% of our Earth's population is connected to the internet somehow, some way. You don't need to have a cable connection to watch cable television. You can get all that on the internet. That's the cable TV.
They're reaching everybody now, dang near.
Everybody.
They're able to, give truth to everybody or keep everyone in a suppressive, propaganda kind of state. So we got to be careful.
Exactly. And like you said, a switch was clicked on, and there was a video that
we've been aware of it. We've been aware of this propaganda for 15, 20 years, gotten more and more researched. I've heard about it. I've read about it. I've seen it. I've seen it with stories over the years, but I really saw it with the Q. As much as we're involved with the Q, bringing the updates, being part of it, and then how it happened with like a switch and how the attacks came. And how they only attack like, I know a lot about this, but they're only doing this from the surface. Wow. So I really firsthand, real time, got to witness that system. And that system at its full reach.
At its finest, yeah.
Yeah, and at its finest hour.
And sitting there, and like we're both awestruck, there was a video that had been put together that I had captured, and we're talking about tonight, and what Bill Cooper was talking about, bread and circus and manipulating it. This little clip is a very, very powerful clip that goes into what the media really is doing to you and what's really coming through that television and what you are watching, called programming.
All right, here, let's check this out. All right, this is Legacy Truce, TV manipulating you, 2. One voice for all to hear, our beloved media.
For what's going on in this crazy 2018. So thank you very much. God bless, and enjoy the video.
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Your problem. There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country that it may be the beginning of the end of our informed democracy.
We are concerned about the troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish
the same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control
exactly what people think.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
At News Channel 3, our responsibility is to report and pursue the truth.
We understand truth is neither politically left nor right.
Our commitment to factual reporting is the foundation of our credibility now more than ever.
But we are human, and sometimes our reporting might fall short.
If you believe our coverage is unfair, please reach out through our website.
We value your comments and we will respond.
We work very hard to seek the truth and strive to be fair, balanced, and factual.
We consider it our honor, privilege to responsibly deliver the news every day.
Thank you for watching, and we appreciate it.
Wow.
Wow.
Seen that
Wow.
several times, but it never ceases to not shock me. Because there you go, folks. I mean, the truth you get out of your local news would be your local weather, maybe a couple of local events, because they can't get you to believe their lies without giving you lots of truth. So truth is necessary in their game.
You know, and I would agree with you. You know, I mean, it's, you know, I have no problem watching my local news. Hey, what's the weather going to be like? Is my local grocery store running sales? I can go out and buy meat for this kind of stuff. We're not talking about that information, because that information is your daily living information. And yes, maybe they can control that too. But on the grand scheme of things, I can get $2 off a steak here or there or anywhere. That's not what we're talking about. It's when they were talking about the whole idea of that little compilation was the fact that they're telling you we're being fair and honest, and we're doing the best we can, and there's people giving you disinformation. They're using this platform to shove their own, and that's damaging to our democracy. And I hope that video, and even like you said, every time you see it, it brings goosebumps, if you will, for the fact that it just confirms the fact that none of these people, this is not their news. They're reading off a script that somebody wrote, that has been edited, checked, double-checked, has been confirmed, been brought down. Many people look at stuff before it hits the teleprompter, and this is one of the major tools they get you with. The music industry, all the other stuff that they have as tools as well, but this is just some crazy stuff that they're doing. And to see that how this is what Bill Cooper was talking about is, it kind of makes you step back and take a breath and just think about, is this, you know, and kind of put a check on the news you watch and the information you receive, and how to, like Mike and I say, don't believe what we're saying. Check this all for yourself. Do your own research. I think knowledge and wisdom is much sweeter when you discover on your own hard work versus listening to somebody else say it in an eloquent way that sounds good to you and you go with it. You know, that's always teach a man to fish type thing, and he'll know how to fish for the rest of his life. And the information is just like that. So it's still mind-blowing to watch that video.
Oh yeah, I agree. All right, that was a great kind of closing. We're at the 34-minute mark. Folks, we're just showing this here to you tonight. It's well known in the research, if you're on the quest for truth, that you're not going to get a lot of it out of the media. There's all kinds of angles. We think we're been in war for 40, 50 years. We've been operating in ways that there's certain background rules that the media can manipulate and do propaganda, because it's, well, we're at war with them over here, so we need to have propaganda put out. So when allies watch our channels, because we know they do, that they don't get everything truthful. Like they were doing it to them, but we were just kind of got caught up in it, because, you know, they'll come out with things like that in the courts. They'll beg and plead that they were operating in a lawful manner and they were allowed to. And if that's the case, we talked about this last night, that things like the NDAA, where they can kick your door in, treat you as a treasonous terrorist. You have no right to courts and no lawyers. That can happen to them as well. They never thought about that, and I'm sure they did. But, well, as long as we remain in control. If we ever lose control. But, all right, we're going to leave it there. We're nearing the 35-minute mark. We had Ben. We're grateful to have him on again tonight. We got a couple episodes here we'll be putting out. You guys will be seeing these most likely on Sunday morning. It's already going on midnight, so we're going to call it a night here. Ben, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your insight. Thanks for all your hard research and work. We appreciate it. We're starting to get really dialed in here, folks, and there's going to be lots more to cover, lots more to delve into. This is just the iceberg, and we're going to be here to bring you in when all the arrests are happening, and when these people are floating on, flying over, getting to Gitmo, getting all situated in their new little, 6x6 cell or 4x4 cell, whatever it is, and we'll be here like the Robin Leach to show you where they're at, their accommodations, and how they're living. And these are only the ones that helped, did things at the final hour to make it just a smidge more right for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be around. But Ben, thank you. We'll see you here real soon.
Thanks for having me on, for sure.
All right. I'm sure everyone, please leave some comments down below for us. Let us know what you thought, what you think. What are some topics maybe you'd want us to go over in future videos? Let us know. There's so many angles, but we do try to bring it in the areas where it's most needed. It's almost like when you see the attacks happen with the media, the shadow banning, we're going to hit that up. It's kind of a natural flow, but here sometimes if there's something that we're not getting into as much, or if there's something you'd like to see, just leave a comment. That's what the comment section's for. Also, look around the comment section. We found earlier that we, had something wrong. Something I said last night in a video, I quickly running over it and reading it, I didn't have, one letter, and hey, that's what we want. We want to cover each other's backs with truth, and like I said, I'd rather be told that and get told the truth and carry on in a forward manner, knowing what that means, than defending my wrong and operating in a forward manner of under a lie. So that's the old way. We can't do that. I've grown up a lot in the last several years in the research, along with tons of people around me, and we're all here to have each other's backs and tell each other what's right. And again, like Ben said, and we've said a million times on this show, Bill Cooper said it to start it off, don't believe anybody until you can verify it. Verify it twice if you can, but listen to everybody, absorb everything you can at this point in time, but believe none of it until you can verify it in your own right, in your own head with all the facts, and land on the best logical answer that you can, and that is typically never going to steer you wrong. I'm Mike. This is a Patriot Hour. God bless. Good evening, and we'll see you back here in the next Patriot Hour update real soon. Have a great evening.